They say that blood is thicker than water, but they never tell you how easily blood can cold-bloodedly turn against you. My name is Clara, and for 24 years, I believed my family was a sanctuary of love, trust, and shared laughter. My grandmother, Evelyn, was the center of our universe. She was a woman of immense grace, warmth, and substantial means, possessing a beautiful estate and a lifetime of savings. To me, she was a guiding light, the person who held my hand when the world felt too heavy. To my mother, Eleanor, however, Grandma Evelyn was something entirely different. She was an obstacle. She was a bank account waiting to be opened. Growing up, I watched my mother walk through life with a quiet, simmering resentment. She always felt slighted by the world, always believed she deserved more than she had, even though Grandma Evelyn supported us completely. I never wanted to see the darkness in my mother. I excused her sharp words and her constant complaints as stress. I loved her because she was my mother. I trusted her because you are supposed to trust the woman who gave you life. But looking back, the signs of her obsession with wealth were always there, hiding behind a mask of maternal care. When Grandma Evelyn fell ill during the rainy months of early spring, my world shattered. I became her primary caregiver, spending long, quiet nights by her bedside, listening to her breathe, and holding her frail hand. During those quiet hours, Grandma would look at me with tears in her eyes and whisper how much she loved me. She told me she had taken care of everything, that her legacy would be used to build my future, to help me start the charity foundation we had dreamed of together. "I trust you, Clara," she would murmur, her voice weak but steady. "You have your grandfather's honest heart." But while I was focusing on comfort and love, my mother was focusing on the clock. She would stand in the doorway of the bedroom, her eyes narrowed, watching us. She didn't offer to change the linens or cook the meals. Instead, she constantly asked about the lawyers, about the safe downstairs, about the paperwork. I thought she was just anxious about the future. I didn't realize she was plotting. The night Grandma Evelyn passed away, a heavy silence fell over the house. My heart was broken into a million pieces. As I sat by her empty bed, weeping for the loss of my anchor, I noticed my mother wasn't crying. She was standing by the window, her silhouette dark against the glass, looking out into the night with a strange, chilling calmness. But what I didn't know that day was that the woman I called my mother had already set a monstrous plan into motion. Until everything changed a week later at the formal reading of Grandma Evelyn's last will and testament, where the illusion of my family vanished forever. The lawyer's office was cold, smelling of old paper and polished mahogany. I sat there in my black dress, my eyes swollen from days of crying. My mother sat beside me, dressed in elegant mourning clothes, holding a silk handkerchief to her dry eyes. When the lawyer pulled out the final document, my heart beat heavily. But as he began to read the words aloud, the room seemed to spin. The document stated that Grandma Evelyn had changed her entire will just 3 days before her passing. According to this new paper, the estate, the savings, and the family heirlooms were not left to build our foundation or to be shared. Everything, every single penny, was left exclusively to my mother. The will explicitly stated that I was to receive nothing, claiming I had been unsupportive in her final days. I sat frozen, the blood rushing in my ears. I looked at my mother. She lowered her handkerchief, and for a fleeting second, a sharp, triumphant smile flashed across her face before she forced her features back into a mask of grief. "Oh, Clara," she sighed, reaching out to touch my arm, but I pulled away. "Mother knows best, darling. Your grandmother must have realized you weren't ready for such responsibility." The pain that pierced my chest was unlike anything I had ever felt. It wasn't just about the money, it was the realization that my own mother had rewritten history, painting me as a cold, uncaring granddaughter to the woman I loved more than life itself. I felt completely broken. I walked out of that office into the pouring rain, my soul feeling as empty as the promises I had been raised on. For 3 days, I stayed in my small apartment, drowning in a sea of sorrow and betrayal. How could she do this? How could she stain Grandma's memory with such greed? But as the tears dried, a quiet, Cold strength began to take root inside me. The sorrow turned into a fierce determination. I remembered Grandma's voice. "You have an honest heart." I knew deep down that Grandma Evelyn would never have written those words about me. I remembered that a year ago, because of Grandma's failing health and fears of intruders, I had secretly installed a small, high-definition security camera disguised as a digital clock on her bedside table. It recorded everything directly to a private cloud server that only I had access to. I had completely forgotten about it in the fog of my grief. With trembling hands, I opened my laptop and logged into the secure server. I scrolled back through the timestamps to 3 days before Grandma passed. My breath hitched as the video loaded. There, on the screen, in the dead of night, was my mother. Grandma Evelyn was heavily medicated, barely conscious. The footage showed my mother guiding Grandma's limp, shaking hand across a piece of paper, forcing her signature onto a document. When Grandma groaned in discomfort, my mother didn't comfort her. She simply pushed harder, her face twisted in cold greed. It was undeniable. My mother had secretly forged my grandma's last will. The day of the official estate execution arrived. My mother had invited her closest friends, the extended family, and the legal executors to Grandma's estate to celebrate her taking over the property. She wanted an audience to witness her climb to the top. She stood in the grand living room, a glass of champagne in her hand, radiating arrogance. I walked into the house quietly, wearing a simple white dress, a stark contrast to the darkness that filled that room. When my mother saw me, her eyes hardened. "Clara, I didn't expect you here." "This is a private gathering for the stakeholders," she said, her voice dripping with artificial sweetness. "I know, Mother," I said calmly, walking toward the large television screen mounted above the fireplace, which was currently displaying a slideshow of family photos. "But I brought a special tribute to Grandma that everyone needs to see." Before she could stop me, I plugged my flash drive into the system. The beautiful pictures of Grandma faded away, replaced by the dark, grainy night footage from the bedroom. The room fell into a deathly silence. The audio played clearly through the surround sound speakers. Everyone watched in absolute horror as my mother's voice echoed through the room, pressuring a dying woman, forcing her hand to sign away her legacy. My mother's face went completely pale. The champagne glass slipped from her hand, shattering on the hardwood floor. "Turn it off." "That's a lie." "It's manipulated," she screamed, her voice cracking with desperation. But the truth was already exposed. The lawyer, who was standing near the door, immediately pulled out his phone and dialed the police. The aftermath was swift and devastating for her. The forged will was completely invalidated by the court, and my mother faced severe criminal charges for fraud and elder exploitation. She lost the wealth she had traded her soul for, but more than that, she lost her dignity, her friends, and the respect of everyone who ever knew her. She was left entirely alone in the prison of her own making. As for me, I finally found the peace I had been searching for. Using Grandma Evelyn's true legacy, I established the foundation we had always dreamed of, helping vulnerable elderly people find care and protection. Justice had been served, not through anger, but through the simple power of the truth. I learned that while betrayal can shatter your world, standing up for what is right can rebuild it into something even stronger. Grandma's love wasn't lost. It lives on in the lives we touch every single day.